I'm John Nicholas. This video is on IT and cybersecurity, particularly phishing. I'm joined here by John Nicolau. He's an executive at Sharp Business Systems in Chicago and is an IT expert. Now, John had sent me some information on phishing and cybersecurity. I thought it was interesting and thought it would be useful to share with others. So, John, before we jump into it, why don't you give an introduction on yourself and your company?
Sure. Thank you. And I appreciate the opportunity, John, for the two of us getting together and talk on this topic. Considering what's going on in the world today, security has become more important and more critical than ever. And especially with folks, working remotely, working from home, when they're not under the corporate umbrella, security becomes even more important. So our organization is a part of the Microsoft ecosystem. We're a Microsoft Gold partner focusing on providing IT solutions for small to mid-market companies, but we do have enterprise clients as well. And as you might suspect, over the last 6 or 7 months, especially, a lot of the focus has been on cybersecurity because just of what's been going on in the world in terms of attacks, and we're spending a lot of time focusing on security these days.
What have been some of the newer techniques in phishing that like the bad guys are using to breach and get into people's systems?
That's a great question, and it's scary, the techniques they're using. And I'll give you an example of something that just happened to me today. But basically, the weakest link in this chain remains, unfortunately, to the employees of an organization. And it's not because that they're doing something premeditated or malicious. It's just that they're not educated because they're busy doing their job, and they haven't really been afforded the opportunity to be trained in what's going on. So probably the most popular form of these types of attacks is some sort of phishing, with a PH. So I prepared a couple of slides. If you don't mind, I'll share them for you. That'll give you an idea of what's going on in the world today. So what's phishing? This is when a bad actor, if you will, provides an email to a user that looks legitimate. And these tend to come on a daily basis from usually a banking institution, or your internet provider. Your bill is ready to be viewed, or your cell phone provider, your bill is ready to be viewed, and something like that. Today, this is God's honest truth. Today I received an email from a client who said, "I'm sending you secure documents, please open them up and confirm your receipts." Now, this client has never sent me an email, but I checked the email address. It looked legitimate. So my inclination was to contact him and say, "Is this legit?" So I sent him an email and said, "I've just received a couple of these notes from you today. Is this legit?" Now, this is an investment house, and he's a client of mine. He never sends me investment-related information. And ergo, of course, the bad actor who had spoofed his email address, so made it look like him. And I didn't click on anything because I've learned. And of course, I found out shortly thereafter, I got a phone call, "Hey, my email's been compromised. Don't open anything from me." So this is normally what happens, these phishing attacks, is where you'll get an email that looks legit. There'll be a link into it or some sort of attachment. And unfortunately, people who don't know will click on that link or attachment, and that releases the malware. That will get into the system, and it could lay dormant for a period of time, because then the bad actor will watch your habits and what your email habits are. Are you the person responsible for the banking relationship? So they'll watch your patterns. Then they'll look when you have an out-of-office message. Are you on vacation? And that's when they'll all of a sudden mimic your cadence of communications with your bank or accounts payable people or receivable people, and then they'll change. "Hey, we've changed our bank account. Please now forward payments to this account instead of that account." This is how these bad actors operate. So they want to first get in through a phishing attack, and then once they make their way into the network, they'll lay dormant and observe what's going on for a while to understand how the business works, and then they'll try and release another email that looks legitimate, getting other people in your organization to do something they wouldn't.
How successful are these attacks, would you say? Do you have any estimate
Well,
on that?
yeah, so here's an idea on the breaches. Here are the primary costs. People get their iPad, leave it in a cab, or they lose their phone or something of that nature. And it's amazing how they'll get access through a stolen device or a lost device or something like that. what's really surprising to me is how many organizations get hit with these kind of attacks. And what's interesting is it could be the smallest company. And a small client, less than 10 people, it's happened to 2 or 3 of my clients of that size, and they say, why are they picking on me? I'm a small business. Remember, they're doing this to millions of businesses across the world. If they can get 0.5% of millions of clients to click on something, and then maybe that'll kick off a ransomware situation where they'll encrypt all the files so you can't work until you pay the ransom. $1,000 here, $1,000 there. This adds up over time. And again, a lot of this comes out of Eastern Europe someplace. Cost of living there is a lot different than here. So if they can find a way in and unleash ransomware attacks on a client, they don't care how big the business is or
And
how
what I
small.
found really interesting about this slide is all the knock-on effects from, suppliers to regulatory scrutiny to customers. It's a much more expansive problem than just someone got into your network and now they're trying to ransom you.
Oh, they'll attack anybody. I've seen a small media company, less than 8 users. They wanted $3,000. A dental lab out in California, they wanted 30. We just got hit with a nonprofit. They wanted 4,000 or 5,000, and they'll negotiate. Because if they can get a couple bucks, and again, they can replicate that process. 1,000 here, 2,000 there. After a while, it all adds up.
So, it's a big problem. What have you recommended, or what do you suggest for people who are looking to combat these phishing attacks? What type of training and whatnot has proven most effective?
Well, great question. So the slide I've put up now is, first and foremost, get your user community educated. And there are programs out there. We have one that we provide to our clients that are very effective in training people on what to look for. And first and foremost, stop and think before you ever click on anything. Make sure your passwords are strong. So the new thing in passwords are phrases where you might have a statement, I love my cat, with and you put in special characters or something like that. I like my dog, or
Yeah.
my favorite car is a Corvette. The passphrases like that are very difficult to break. Multi-factor authentication is key. Make sure you verify. If it looks fishy to you, verify. Pick up the phone and call the sender. Did you send me this? If you're not sure, always check with them. And it happens both at the home level, at the business level. So, let your friends and family know, educate them. I send these kind of things to my kids all the time because they're on email as well. And I say, you got to be careful because you can get compromised. But stop and think and get your staff educated, I think, is critical, because if they don't know what they don't know, and if you don't educate them. And think about this too, as the holidays approach, UPS, that logo is readily available. Your shipment has shipped from this company. Click here to learn more. I've seen people get caught with a UPS or a FedEx fake email phishing scam.
Is there any particular pace or amount of education or training that you think is optimal?
Usually when we do this for our clients, we do a baseline initial. So we'll send out a generic email and we'll see who are the clickers in your organization. Then we'll work with the leadership of that team to say, okay, here's the patterns. And then we can tailor the software that we use that does this. We can tailor the email campaigns to that industry. So if you're in the construction industry, it would come from construction type companies. If you're in the financial world, it'll come from financial concerns. So it looks legitimate on things that your staff would normally get. Plus it's randomized so that the person in the cube next to you doesn't get the same one and in the same level of frequency. I think monthly, at least quarterly. Some organizations say monthly, every other month, but at least quarterly to educate your users. And then when they do click on one of our training campaigns, if they fall victim to that, we let them know they have to go through training. It's a couple of videos and they learn what to look out for and prevent it in the future. So quarterly at the least, maybe every other month at the most.
Well, John, thanks. This has been a great overview. If you want to contact John for additional information, his contact information is here and also at the end of this video.
John, I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you and your folks. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out.